Well, first of all, I want to express my warmest thanks to Need Coffee for inviting me here and for giving me the opportunity to discuss with you my work. So the goal of this paper is to discuss methods and tools for representing and annotating historical fragments in digital libraries. And what do we mean by fragmenta? In textual criticism, fragmenta can be defined as pieces of information about lost authors preserved in surviving sources. This term is misleading because we don't have fragments of the original text. We don't have the original text, but we just have quotations, allusions, paraphrases, or translations of original text which are lost. And this term, fragmenta, is used in traditional print editions where these pieces of information are just decontextualized extracts from many different sources. In digital libraries, we want to represent these pieces of information in a different way. So these pieces of information about lost authors become contextualized annotations about lost authors. And in fact, we also use the term text reuse, which is a big category covering many different examples of quotations, allusions, and so on. And today I'm going to present a visualization of a digital collection of text reuses of lost works developed by the Perseus Digital Library. And the model of this visualization, which is being developed with the help of Bridget Almas, which is the lead software developer of the Perseus project, is a print edition. So we have the print edition. This is a collection of the fragments, this is the term for a print edition, the fragments of Istros, the Kallimachian, that I have published in 2009. So we have the traditional book, and then we will see the digital collection of the fragments. In this slide you can see, well, the cover of the book, and on the right you have a page where you can see the main elements of a print edition of fragments. So you have first of all the text of the fragment, in this case an extract, so just a few lines with information about this lost author. Then you have witnesses and parallel text, and we will see what I mean with them. Then the apparatus criticus, and here we have a selection of conjectures and variants about the text preserving the fragment. Then, of course, a translation into a modern language, in this case is Italian, and a commentary about the fragment, and then footnotes with many other information, as with a lot of information as sources, bibliography, etc. And now I am going to show you the work done in Perseus, which is a collaborative platform developed by the Perseus Digital Library for editing and annotating TEI XML source documents in classics. And there are many projects in Perseus, and one of them is about fragmentary authors, or as we prefer, text reuses. And in this page you can see a fragmentary workflows with some scenarios, and also a discussion about requirements for building a digital library of fragmentary authors and how to represent text reuses. And now I have a visualization. So here in this slide we have a selection of some examples of text reuses of this lost author, Istros, and the reference is this edition, Berti, 2009. And here we have 5 lost content items, as we call them in this case, and for each of them we have a site URN in blue, then you have a title of the object, and then a description of the content of this text reuse. So one of the goals of a digital collection of text reuses is to represent them inside the source text. So I want to see the quotation, the allusion, or the paraphrase inside the text that preserves that text reuse, not as in print editions where I have just extracts. And representing text reuses inside the source text means, first of all, selecting and citing the portions of the source text that can be classified as text reuse. The problem is that we don't have the original text, we just have one source preserving some information about the lost author. So if we want to cite the text reuse with canonical references and represent it with RDF triple store, we can't use CTS URS because we don't have two sources, one reusing the other. We have just one source. So that's why we have created a site collection inventory of lost content items. And here we have the site URNs for the examples that we have selected. And I can show you one of them. And here we have a site URN, which is an example of a site collection object identifying a text reuse of this lost author Istros. So you can see the site URN with the site namespace, the collection, we have LCI, meaning lost content item, and then the object ID. And in this case, so this site URN identifies a text reuse of a lost text with a reference to an edition, because given that we have just one source preserving the text reuse, to represent, to cite it, we have to work at an edition level. So we have a source text and then we have the edition of the text reuse. And here we have the object, the site collection object, in this case, the title with a reference to the edition, Berti Istros, and then F is fragment 12, because in this edition, in this particular edition, we have this text reuse as fragment 12, and then the description. And now we can see a demo visualization of what we would like to represent. So, in this slide, we have this example. We have the lost content item with the site URN on the right, and with the description. And on the left, we have the source text. As I told you, the first goal is to represent the reuse, to see the reuse inside the source, preserving it. And I can show the text reuse. In this case, is a passage of Athenaeus. I have the CTS URN of the source text, Athenaeus, and here I selected the words pertaining to the text reuse, so you can see also in the substring from Istros to Superpantry, so the CTS URN can be precise. Then I can see the TEI XML of the source text, and then with full text I have a link to the whole source text in the Perseus digital library, in this case the Athenaeus, the Deipnos Sophistae. But I also want to see different editions of the same source text. This is one of the goals of building a digital library, so not just one edition, one version, but the multi-text, so many editions. And in this case I have just edition 1, edition 2, but the goal is to have different editions of the same source text, in this case Athenaeus, and also different editions of different collections of fragments as print editions. Then I have other information. Well, source text is the first, then I have witnesses and parallel. For this example, I don't have witnesses. By witnesses, I mean other source text reusing the same original which is lost, but with different words, with a different syntax, etc. And I can visualize them in this, with this tool. And then I have a parallel. By parallel, I mean parallel text, other sources dealing with the same topic of the source text. So in this case, for example, I have Plutarch, Solon, and the lexicon, the Suda, where I have information very similar to the information that I found in the source text, where I have the text reuse. In the first case, with the Plutarch, I have the CTS URL referring to the text in the Perseus Digital Library, and once again I can see the TI-XML text and then the full text. And in the second case, with the Suda, I can have a link to another resource. In this case, for example, we have the Suda online, with the Greek text of the Suda. I can see this entry about Succophantine, the English translation, and other information. So, as you can see, starting with one edition, one print edition, we can expand, we can have other links to other resources, not just one edition and some information. So in this case, I not only mention parallel text, but I can have other resources. Then, going to the right, I have, well, translation. In this case, I have the Italian translation of the edition that I showed you, but I can have, of course, other translations in English, for example, but also in other languages. So given that this is a collaborative platform, we can have many other translations in other languages. Then commentary, and here I have a short commentary to this text reuse in English, but once again I can have other commentaries. And here is interesting because we have created a site collection of commentaries. So you can see the site URL for this particular commentary on this object. And then I have the commentary in English. And this is my commentary, my short commentary, but we can have other, of course, comments to this fragment. Then alignment, and this is an important part. So I can align many different sources. I can align witnesses with the source text. In this case, I can align parallel text with the source text. So Plutarch and the Suda, and I will have a link to the Alpheus alignment editor, where I can align this passage with the text reuse. And on the right I have Plutarch or the Suda, and I can produce other lines. So I can align the Greek text in this case. But of course I can have other alignments with the translation, of course, in Italian, in English, in German, in French, etc. And with different editions of the same text reuse. And then syntax, of course. I want to annotate the syntax of this text reuse. And this is an important part of the digital collection of fragmentary authors, because I want to explore syntactic reuses, so to see if in a reuse I have the same syntax with different words, or the same words with different syntax. And so, once again, I have the link to the Alpheus Bank editor, where I can produce a tree. Of course, the first thing I have to do is to produce syntactic annotations where I have the original text, because we have text reuses of sources that are still preserved. So I can start with them, compare the original source and the reuse, and then, of course, I would like to annotate other examples as this one. Then well, links. Of course, we are developing these tools. We can put some links. For example, I can have links to Google Books Internet Archive, where I have print editions. In this case, Kybel. So I have the print edition of Kybel of the Deacons of History, and I can see the print edition. Or I can see the edition, in this case a recent edition, just the pages about this particular text reuse, and so on. But I would like to see other, of course, editions, not just one as in the print publication. Well, and now some final slides. So, well, here we have a slide with the data driving this demo, and we have annotations. We can see the body and the target, and then, well, we have Bridget who can tell us something about this. And the final goal is to have collections of fragmentary authors in the Persis Digital Library. So here we have this slide, we have the Greek and Roman materials, and so the goal is to see these text reuses, as I told you, in the source text. So here I have my example with the text reuse, which is highlighted, and on the right I can see a reference to this lost content item, but with a lot of information. In this case I have just a portion of text, but I can point to different information. The name of the reused author, the title of the reused work when I have it. Verba dicendi. By verba dicendi I mean the verbs used to express the citation, the allusion, and so on. And so the goal is to have something like that. With this information I can extract data and have collections. One collection can be a collection of fragmentary authors. In this case I have a collection of Istros, our fragmentary author. But I can have other collections. I can have collections of text reuses by topic, by language, and so I have many possibilities for doing this. So thank you very much.